that's also where I think, to your point, the multidisciplinary part comes in. Because if I'm a journalist and I'm sort of writing about a judgment, and a lot of us read about judgments more than your regular court cases, how do I demystify the whole thing? And how do I keep it honest and be fair to the whole system as well? I feel that partnership, to our earlier picture of holistic view, there's a partnership there across disciplines, and we need to build that. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. And I'm also saying that often the system is judged on end results. People want the bottom line. They want to know what happened in a case. What was the net outcome? Was it allowed or dismissed? What was the result? Who won? Who lost? But actually, the truth is somewhere else. It's in between. It's what happened in the process. What was the case all about? What were the facts, etc. And unless you understand that, the results mean nothing. And the problem with that is, especially if you're online, the moment that is reported, you will have 100 toxic comments saying it's because this judge heard it, or it's because this lawyer heard it. You don't even know what's happened. You don't know what the case was about. And that, it's not that I pay much attention to it, but the question you've asked me, all of that feeds a prejudice. And therefore there is all the more need for a slightly more responsible, friendly even platform for these systems to be understood. If that happens, then people begin to see a slightly softer side, the real side of things, and it becomes anecdotal also. And I think that's extremely important. Otherwise, it's a dangerous thing, because dissing the system is all very well, but it's the system we have, and unless that's constructive criticism and we're making the legal system better, where are we headed? What alternatives are we speaking of?
It's our fundamentals of our country itself, right?
I think so. The constitutional system that we're in and the legal judicial system are very, very closely related.
So there, Aditya, if you actually look at technology, it sort of disrupted a lot of industries, and it also brings a lot of transparency. And you talked about that earlier, whether it is the TV screening, live screening of your cases. But there's very little disruption beyond that that's happening in the legal world in India, right? Are you seeing a future around technology and AI and others coming in to really change the way, the pace, bringing in agility, transparency?
That's a delicate question, because as much as there is a need to disrupt, there is a need to make sure you don't destroy. And I'm seeing a lot of folks getting carried away with technology. They think that AI can substitute decision making. I was just reading an article on metaverse and how that's going to thin your reality and your digital life.
It's almost like a parallel digital universe.
Parallel and maybe predominant.
Absolutely.
Which is for me is a frightening thought.
It's scary.
Because if we're talking here about being more human and humanizing, I'm not so sure the digital version of me is going to be that.
But that's my worry as well, right? Like, I agree with you, first of all, because those are really pertinent issues that we need to be talking about. But also, if you look at this side, it's like the legal system is so behind in terms of adopting technology that if you don't catch up, it's the common person.
I agree, and which is where I think the example of video conferencing is a case study of how things went right. Now, we've done what we might have done in 20 years in 2 years. When I say we, I don't mean me. I mean the credit is to the administrator, to the chief justices and the judges and the registrars who implemented this. Otherwise, we've been speaking of video conference hearings for a long time. I don't know how many years it might have taken. But COVID left you with no choice, because courts couldn't come to a standstill. They did in between. For a month or two, other than extreme urgency cases, nothing was being heard. And you figured that it can't go on that way. So what was the other option, which was to disrupt
quickly?
And today VC hearings have become customary.
So do you, as a result of this, and COVID has really
triggered it.
It's like paced off a lot of
Absolutely.
industries like this. So do you see this transformation sort of hitting a high speed?
I can already see the transformation because we moved to a hybrid model. Today you can argue a case physically or virtually. For the longest time in some courts you could only argue virtually. So you had no choice but to adapt. It had an efficiency to it. There was a cost saving to it because you wouldn't have to travel, etc., etc. But I was also skeptical of it because when I've spent this last hour telling you about how it's a performance sport, it's about a human interaction, I have to say that a VC does not have the same effect.
Yeah.
The same conversation we're having, if we had it online, I think would be missing something.
Yeah.
And we therefore have to, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to think, yes, you disrupt, but how much do you disrupt? Do you take away the very edifice of the legal system? And this is where I have been at a point of difference with a lot of folks who believe that AI is the answer. I don't think it's the answer. It's a tool. How far it enables it has to be looked at very carefully.